Well, since I'm looking to see if I get in trouble for talking, she'll yell at me if I'm not supposed to talk. I'm going to welcome everybody here while we're waiting on Louis's microphone to come through. We might have to she'll give me the signal to do a test. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I'm sitting next to the most handsome man in the room. Aren't you jealous? I'm sitting next to Luciano. Louis Charles Graziano.
Right.
Did I say that right?
That's right. Good.
Are we checking his sound? Okay,
That's right. That was good.
okay. Can everybody hear him? No, they can't hear him.
You didn't hear me.
We're getting there. This is called show business. You never had, oh, she now turned me off. You never had any technical difficulties in the war, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, say something, Louis. Can you say 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3.
Nope. We'll get there. This is called patience. How many of you think that this world needs more patience? Calm. We're all good. It's all going to be okay. If you can survive World War II, you can survive anything.
Right.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Talk.
No,
Not yet.
I got a screen.
No, they're going to get you in a minute. Oh, she's going to come up here. Right, gotcha. How about you in the back row? Can you hear me okay? Okay, so while she's working on him, the reason I'm sitting here is because I became an expert in World War II 6 years ago. Before that, I knew nothing other than a few high school history classes. And here's the thing. My dad was in World War II, the 83rd Infantry Division. His name was Staff Sergeant Myron H. Miller. I was named after him. My name's Myra Miller. From Dixon, Missouri, Dixon. It's not far up the road. My dad was a good guy, and he went off to war. He came back to be a farmer. He worked for the Production Credit Association, and I never knew anything. I was the youngest. And about 6 years ago, I wondered what he did. And I asked my brothers, and they knew a few things. My sister didn't know much. And so I started researching, and I happened to live in St. Louis, Missouri. And there's a place called the Archives in St. Louis. And I went to the archives. I'm pretty smart. I have 3 college degrees. So I went and figured out how to do research for World War II. And now I'm a World War II expert. Isn't that amazing? I taught myself, and I started, because so many people asked for my help from around the world, I started a company called Footsteps Researchers, and then I started taking people on tours to Europe to follow footsteps. So I've only been an expert for 6 years, so don't hold anything against me because I might have not told something on that. 1, 2, 3, Louis.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, nope, not yet.
Still didn't hear it?
Oh, there you go. I think we're hearing you now.
Hey, remember
Oh.
those times you were hollering at us?
So Louis has his daughter on the front row and his son-in-law, who's the king of the staff. He does everything for this group, but he doesn't get any credit, so stand up and wave to everybody. This is the guy that makes this show go for Louis. And stand up. What is your name? Kim. This is Louis's daughter. They brought him all the way from Georgia. So we're going to get started here in a minute. And now that we can hear you, I'm going to hold up this book. Now, it's called A Patriot's Memoirs of World War II, Through My Eyes, Heart, and Soul. Now that gets me, because eyes, heart, and soul, that is a really important part of this. Louis, you're a hero. Now, you don't believe you're a hero, right?
No, I didn't try to be one.
You didn't try to be. What did you try to do?
I did what I was supposed to do.
You just
and
did
got
his
it
job.
done.
So, Louis, tell him what division were you in? What unit?
Now the Special Troop, Eisenhower Special Command Troop, 138th Field Artillery.
Field artillery. Who knows what field artillery means? Give some education. Some of these people didn't raise their hand. They don't know what field artillery is.
Well, that was the unit I was in. That was under Eisenhower's. And I had a group of men. They gave me 30 men that I was in command of. And we went around, did what we had to do.
And give us an example of something that you were told to do.
Well, I had to take the men and get them from England. We went to on the ship to go to up the English Channel to the Omaha Beach invasion. Then we pulled in there, and I had to wait. The first wave went in, and out of 40 men that went in on the first wave, there was only 12 men left. Then the second group men went in, and they lost a few there. Then I was in the third wave going in, and I drove a gasoline truck off of the LST onto the shore, Omaha Beach. And when I got on the beach, I jumped out of it quick and got my machine guns and stuff with me. There was all dead soldiers around me down the ground. I laid down with them and crawled my way up under the cliff. And once I got under the cliff, I got my flamethrower out, and there was the Germans up on top shooting with their machine guns. And I put all that on fire underneath them, and that got rid of that machine gun. And then I shot a flare up in the sky, which I knew the Navy would know what I wanted, and they shot from the ship and got another bunch of machine guns out. And then we stayed under the cliff that night, and the Rangers were the first ones that came in and went up the cliff with the rope ladders. And as they're going up, the Germans shooting at them, they would cut some of the ropes on them. They'd have to jump over and get onto another rope to get up the ladder. And after they got up there, I took my men up there. I had 30 men. And some of them lost their guns when they got off of the LSTs because they had so much equipment on them. When they got into the water, they would drown. So they had to get rid of that. So before we went up the cliff, I told the men, go get your gun off of the dead soldiers, I says, and follow me up the cliff. And we went up the cliff. There as I was going up, I saw a building on one side. And then I saw somebody was behind the corner of that building. And all at once I saw a skirt flying around the corner of the building, so I didn't shoot, which I was glad I didn't then because there was a woman there. I don't know what she was doing there. So then we continued up to the top of the cliff, and then we had to fight our way up to St. Louis. It took us 43 days to take St. Louis, and from St. Excuse me, from St. Louis, we fought our way all the way to Reims, France. Then when I got to Reims, Colonel Thrasher come up to me and he says, I want you to take 2 men with you and go to the supply house and get some things that we need. So I took 2 of them with me. I went to the supply house in town and picked out the things we needed, and the Frenchman wouldn't sell them to us. I said, we come here to fight your country, and you won't sell it to us? No, I'm not going to sell it to you. So I went back to camp. I went and got 3, 4 of my men with another truck, and we went back up there. And I asked him I wanted that stuff. He still said no. So I got my pistol out and shot, pointed right at him. I says, okay, men, load it all up that we want, which they did. Then I gave him a paper to take to the government to get this money for what we took. And I went back and told the major, I says, what I done. He says, oh, we're going to get in trouble with that. I said, no, we're not, because he's afraid I'll come back and get him. So we didn't have no trouble with it.
Wow.
So,
Can you imagine that? Here.
you're right. Well,
it-
so many languages I knew, you have to do that.
So, who's been to Pointe du Hoc? Do you know what he's talking about? Pointe du Hoc is the cliff that overhangs. That's where the 5th Army Rangers went up. They were the first up, right? The 5th Army?
Mm-hmm.
The Rangers went up, and then he followed them. Can you imagine? And in his book, there's a picture climbing up the cliff. I have been there, and I have looked over this. I just can't imagine these guys. You were wet? Were you
Yeah.
wet?
Yeah, they were shooting
Sandy? They were
down at
shooting
us.
at him, and you're trying to climb up a cliff.
Right, on that rope ladder.
That's amazing. So I'm going to read something here. Let me find it. It says here, I have observed Sergeant Garziano's soldierly manner, attention to duty, and sincere loyalty to a cause. During the past 2 months, Sergeant Graziano has worked directly under me as a foreman of the utility center. Without his assistance as foreman, there is doubt as to whether we could have accomplished our work with such expediency. Sergeant Graziano possesses the rare quality of starting a job and finishing it thoroughly. He does not need to be told how, when, or why he gets results. He is a born gentleman and at all times exemplifies this quality. He knows how to deal with men, and by this manner has gotten the most out of them and to their respect. He is most courteous at all times. He possesses leadership. Sergeant Graziano possesses, in addition to these qualities, a resourcefulness necessary to the service. His inventiveness has surmounted many problems which in the beginning seemed impossible. In this connection, his ability is invaluable. That is amazing. Give him a round of applause. You know, we're in the Midwest, Missouri, starting a job and finishing it. That's what we do, right? What do you think it takes to be a soldier like you, where men, you didn't know these men.
I know the men, no.
So you got these
But-
this group of men, and then what did you have to do?
But they all had respect for me because I took care of all of them. And then I wasn't one of those sergeants, pick that up, do this and that. If I got a new man in my company, I'd pick up his bag and take it to him. And usually the sergeant would say, pick it up, put it over here. I didn't do that.
That's amazing. So so you were in Rhymes. Something. Tell us about the most vivid memory you have of your time there. Something that, when I asked you, think of something, what comes to your mind?
Well, in Marines, I was working under the major, and he was an engineer. And we was out in the field one time, and a general come up and told him that he wanted mess hall built from the prefabs that was there. So the major, he says, okay. So Major monkeyed about 3 weeks and couldn't figure it out. And I was out there one day when the general come back up, and he says, you hadn't done nothing. He said, well, I'm still trying to figure it out. So the general looked at me, he says, can you do it? I says, yes, sir. I says, can you not step aside? He says, okay, Major, you stay right there. So I told the general, I says, if you let me use the German prisoners and give me 2 guards that can speak English and German, I says, I'll get it up for you. He says, you got it. So within 3 weeks, I had that mess hall built for him. Next thing you know, well, that major was in charge of the whole city of Reims, France. Next thing you know, he transferred the major out and put me in charge of the whole city of Reims, France.
You know what? It makes a difference when somebody asks you to do something and you say, yes, sir, and if you don't know how to do it, what do?
I just figure it out.
You figure
and
it
get
out.
it done. I mean,
So what is the Little Red Schoolhouse? What's the Little Red Schoolhouse?
the schoolhouse, well, I took care of, well, then I was in charge of the whole city of Reims and the schoolhouse. And I was in charge of the war room there, where they had all the maps and all. And that's where I set up that room for the surrender. And there, I set all the chairs up where the Germans were going to sit and the French and all them. And that's why I was in the room when the surrender was signed. And there was a lot of reporters there. There was probably about 60 people in the room. And so the German, he wouldn't sign until all the rest of the others signed, the British and Americans and all them, before he would sign. He wanted to be the last one to sign it. And that's what took place there. And after they signed it, their faces were, you looked at, there was no smile, you know, they weren't happy about it at all, but we were.
So who was in that room? Who was in that room signing?
Signing for the Americans was Smith, I think it was, yeah. He
Smith?
did for the Americans, and then British, and then the German one was, it's got four letters. Let's see. I just don't know how to say in German. Anyway, he was supposed to be the last one to sign it, and he did. That's in the book, though.
Right. So I have a question. You were also, so he was on Omaha Beach. He climbed up the cliffs of Pointe du Hoc. He's now in Reims, France. But between that, you were at the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, well, that story there comes. One night, the captain come in. It was late that night. He says, "I want you to go on a mission with me." I says, "Is that a request?" He says, "I can put it in order." I says, "Let's go." And it was snowing terrible. And we had to go find General Patton. Half of his company got lost. And we had to go find them and take them to Bastogne. So we went out, we found them between Rennes and Metz. And then we fought our way all the way to Bastogne. A lot of them got shot up. And I got frozen feet on the way, which I'm from here down, I'm all black. And once we got them in Bastogne, the General Patton's, half of his company was surrounded by them, so we had to go and free them, which we did when we got there. So right after we'd done that, the captain and I decided we go back to Reims. So we went back to Reims after we did our job.
So did you meet General Patton?
No, I never did meet him, but his men I did.
Yes.
And then when I got back to Reims, my feet were froze and the fluid was coming out of them. And they said I got there just in time, or otherwise they cut my feet off.
And so he got there just in time, and they were getting ready to amputate his feet because they were frostbitten from being in the sub-degree zero weather. They didn't have the right equipment. They didn't have the right uniforms. They didn't have the right boots.
Oh.
And he didn't have the right weather protection on his feet.
Yeah, so they stayed in the hospital there for a while. And then I told them I had to get back out with my men. So they said that you get the supply sergeant to get a shoes bigger and put 2 pairs of socks on, we'll let you out. So I got a hold of my supply sergeant. I said, you better go find me some shoes.
So he got, my father said the same thing. He said that he was a staff sergeant and he was in charge of making sure his squad of men had 2 pairs of socks, and they changed them every morning. They had to change them every morning to keep their feet.
Yeah, well, we didn't have the extra socks with us.
Yeah. And you think that your life's bad when you're a little cold and your electricity goes out for 2 hours? How would you like to be out there? So we got to finish telling the story, then we're going to have some questions asked, okay?
Okay.
So who did you meet in Reims, France? Let me go back here. I'm trying to find this spot. What happened after the signing of the surrender? Where did you go after that?
Well, after signing surrender, I stayed right there in Reims.
And what did you do?
I was still in charge of all the city of Reims, France there, and so one day one of my men that was on duty, patrol duty around the camp, around the city, he says, come go with me. I says, okay, I ain't got nothing to do right now. So I went with him. We drove around, we saw a cave going underneath the ground. He says, let's check that out. I says, okay. So we got out and went there. He says, all right, you go now, I'll cover you. I said, no, you're on duty. I'll cover you. You go. So he went ahead and I covered him. We got down there in that cave and there was Germans down there. And when they heard us coming, they put all their papers on fire. And there was so many different ways underneath that ground that went this way, that way, and all over. They disappeared on them. We couldn't get them. So I said to my friend, I said, let's go back under there in about a week or so, see if they come back. And then, of course, in the meanwhile, I found out they had a stepladder going up, getting out in our motor pool. That's how they got in there, see. So what I did, I got a concrete slab put over that top and got a truck and put one of the wheels up there on it. So, well, I said, we'll go back down there in about a week, 10 days, see if they come back. And I had some extra men that time. And I knew, in the meanwhile, I knew all the departments. I checked them out. And I told the men, so we went back down there, and they was down there again. And they started disappearing, trying to get out. They knew I had that product. So we got them and took them into headquarters and turned them in.
So I understand that you met this lady named Bobby. Where did you meet her?
My buddy Buck, his girlfriend and Bobby was good friends, and she was the mess sergeant. And there was playing ball, and my buddy says, let's go watch them play ball. I says, okay. So we went to play ball, and Bobby was the pitcher. And I said, who's that girl? And his girlfriend said, well, she's my best friend. Her name is Bobby. I said, okay. So the next day, she was working in the orderly room. I went over there and asked her to talk to Bobby, so they went and got her. And I made a date with her for that night. So I went that night to pick her up, and they said, she's already gone with somebody. So I went back to camp, and the girls there said, they told her that she'd get another date with me. She says, yes, I will. So later, about 10 days or so later, I went back and asked her for a date again. And that time she was there, and we've been there ever since.
So did you get extra food in the mess hall?
Did
you get extra food?
about the food in the mess hall? No. No, one night we was out, my buddy, myself, and Bobby, and we was going back to camp. We was out that night, and going back, we decided we'd go to the mess. Nobody's supposed to go to the mess hall after duties, it's supposed to be closed. Nobody's supposed to get in there. But since she was the mess sergeant, we decided we'd go in and cook us up a steak. So we did. In the meanwhile, the colonel comes. What are you all doing here? I says, Colonel, how do you like your steak? And that took care of that situation.
You are slick. He's not only good looking, but he's slick. Can you tell us a little bit about your mustache? I think this is a funny story.
Mustache. When I first got inducted in the service, the captain come in, he says, you got to cut your mustache off. Being a rookie, I decided I better cut it off. I didn't know what, he says, or else, and I didn't want to know where else was. So I cut it off. But after a day or two there, they shipped me to Cape Hood, Texas. I let it start growing again, and I haven't cut it off since. But I didn't see where that had anything to do with making me cut my mustache off.
Well, he cut it off for 6 months and then never shaved it again, right? Very handsome. I think it's about time to answer some questions from
Okay.
these people, if anybody has a question. This is a very important moment and time. Not many people have this opportunity to hear history like this. I saw a hand in back. Yes, she's going to bring the microphone to you. Stand up, sir. Young man.
Why did you join the military?
Say that again.
Why did Mr. Graziano join the military?
Why did you join the military?
I was drafted. But I was ready to go, though.
Well, a little backstory there. Your parents came from Sicily. Your parents came
Yeah,
Sicily.
my parents came from Italy.
So they immigrated over, and but you were...
I was born in America, yeah.
Right. So that's like when they tell you, young man, stand back up. When they tell you to do something, that means you got to do it, right? And then you say, yes, sir. Tell him, yes, sir. Right
Yes,
here.
I'd like to know, what were you feeling when you actually witnessed the surrender of Germany?
What were you feeling when you were in the room at the schoolhouse when you were seeing history happen with the surrender?
Well, at that time, I didn't have no feeling, but after it was over with, I had good feelings. I knew we was going to go home soon.
How long did it take you to get home after the war was over?
Well, I had to wait till you had so many points. They took them like that. It probably
A few months?
maybe about a couple months.
He
or
came
something.
home in Christmas, around
Yeah.
Christmas, January time, after, this was May of 45. And so then, what they typically did is they got different positions, they had to do different duties after the war. They weren't in combat duty, they were different
Yeah, I went
positions.
home. I got home at Christmas '46.
And how did you get home? Did you go on a ship?
Yeah, when I'm going back, I went over on a Queen Mary.
Queen Mary?
We had 82 troops on there. And the bunks they had, well, you couldn't turn over. You had to get down, turn over, and go back in. So you was supposed to sleep in there one night on the deck. So the first night they gave me the bunk, and I couldn't turn over and all. And then the next day I said, I'm going to stay on the deck every night. Y'all can have the bunks.
Right here.
First off, I like your cap, but where did you take basic and how long was it?
Where did you take basic training?
Basic training in
Where? Fort Hill? Fort Hood.
Fort Hood, yeah, that's what I was trying to think.
And how long were you in basic
I
training?
had 13 weeks there, and then they sent me, and I had 4 weeks at Camp Shanks in New York, and then from there they sent me to Fort Dix, ready to go overseas. So the night before I got on the ship, I went to the town and made a record for my father. And I had it all in Italian for him, you know. And then I sent it to him, and my daddy played that record all the time I was gone. And when he got home, first thing he did, went and got that record and put it on. And everything I told him we was going to get Mussolini, and everything that I said I was going to do to him happened exactly like I said. I don't know why, but it did.
Jill?
If you could give one piece of advice or encouragement to this generation, what would it be?
I didn't get
Okay, if you could give one piece of advice to this generation today, what would you give them?
that. Well, I'd give them, make sure they do the right thing and not try to take anything from anybody or,
Don't be bad.
yeah.
Well, and I also think that, where's my young man in the room? Stand up again. You know, it said here, he did not need to be told how, when, or why. He just did it. That's good information for that guy
Right.
back there.
Right.
You hear that?
We have a
Yes, sir.
another young man over on this side.
Okay, young man.
What was it like to command a unit of troops or a division?
What was it like to command a troop of men? What was it like to command a troop?
I didn't have no trouble with him because I was good to him. And I was one of those sergeants that showed their rank, you know.
I don't know how much more time we have, but this is fun. So if you need us to leave, we will, but if we're not, we'll just keep answering questions.
We're doing good because we've actually told the next group that they could go get something to drink or something.
Awesome.
Some water and stuff, so they're not ready yet anyway.
Okay, right here. Wait. Oh, wait, one question back there, then they'll come up to you. No, go ahead with him.
Louis, what was the highest rank you obtained? And two, Everybody heard about Omaha Beach, but did you lose any of your men coming across Omaha Beach?
Okay, what was the highest rank that you ever had? What was your highest rank? Master Sergeant?
Master Sergeant, yes.
Master
And
Sergeant?
I made Master Sergeant in 23 months. And usually it takes them 5 years or so to make it.
And he also said,
They wanted to make me second lieutenant, and I turned it down.
because you want to go home.
I want to go home, right?
Did you lose any men on Omaha Beach?
Yes, I lost 2 men at Omaha Beach when we made the invasion.
Do you remember their names? Did they just, did you lose them in the water or on the beach?
Well, they got in the water, and as they were going on the beach, they got shot up.
Right here first, then we'll come back.
Yeah, my question is when all this was going on, how did they get news of what was going on in other parts of the world?
Okay, how did you get news to know what was happening in other parts of the world and what was happening around? I mean, did you get news? How did you get it?
I didn't get no news.
Did you know what was going on in the United States?
No, I didn't know anything that was going on.
Did you know when Roosevelt died?
I think we heard that.
You heard that?
That's all.
Did you know very far in advance where you were going?
No, they didn't tell us where we were going till we were 3 days out on the ship. Then they told us we were going to England. And the submarines were chasing us. We had to change course every 6 minutes. And then between the submarines and the storm that came, instead of going to England, we wound up in Scotland. And then from Scotland, we took a train to England to Camp Weston.
You know, I read in his book, by the way, he's 98 and he wrote this book when he was 95. So some of you still have work to do. I thought it was interesting when you were on the ship, lots of men got seasick. Did you get seasick?
I didn't get seasick.
But you saw men getting seasick?
Coming back, there was a lot of men that got seasick. And coming back I come back on a little Liberty ship. And on that ship, there was this fellow that got inducted the same time I did from my hometown. And he was in charge in that ship, working there. So I had the whole free liberty of the ship.
So when you came, how did that feel? How did it feel coming back? You know, you knew it was over, you got your points, the time was up. What did that feel like?
It felt real good. Then once I got, we were supposed to land in New York, but the storm was so bad we landed in Virginia. And then when we got there, they told us we had to wait 2 weeks before we can go because they had nobody to be in charge to take us to Fort Dix. I says, sir, I'm the master sergeant. I says, I can take them. I says, and I'm from up there. So he let me take the group to there so we didn't have to wait 2 weeks.
Now that is called initiative. I'll do it. Where's our microphone? Oh, we're right here.
First
we'll
of
go
all,
next.
thank you very much for your service. I'm sure everybody here wants to thank you for your service. And And my question was, have you ever got to go back and revisit Normandy Beach and those cliffs?
Did you ever get to go back or get invited back to Normandy?
Yeah, I was invited back. They even wanted to pay my way, but I said I didn't want to go back.
Richard's coming up with the microphone. We've got a couple up here. Wait, one back there. He'll make it.
Okay, you're 98. I met you Wednesday noon,
and you're still going strong, and I'm getting wearing out. I want to know what your secret is.
Okay.
And how far did you travel to come?
I'm going to answer one answer for him. He came from Georgia. 800 miles. So what day did you leave? Monday. So the lady said that you're 98 and you were here on Wednesday. She said she saw you on Wednesday, and now this is Saturday. You're still going strong. How do you do this?
Oh, no problem at all. You know, you eat everything with olive oil. That keeps you going good.
Eat everything with olive oil. He's from Italy.
I do all my cooking with olive oil.
And I do hear he is an excellent cook. What is your favorite thing to cook?
Lasagna.
And back home at your church, tell everybody what you do for Mother's Day.
On Mother's Day, I do Mother's Day breakfast for the whole church, which probably feed 125 people. And I got to do that when I go back now.
I want to say thank you, too, for your service. It's just an incredible experience to get to be here. I'd like to know, where were you when you got news that the atomic bombs had been dropped, and what was the mood and the feeling where you were?
Okay, where were you when the atomic bombs were dropped?
I was still in Marines, France.
And how did you hear the news, and then what did you think?
I was so happy about it because I knew we was going to get to go home.
Did you agree with the dropping of the bomb?
Oh, yes. I think so.
When you come back, did you expect to go to the Pacific?
Okay. When you released you were in the European theater.
Yeah.
Did you expect that maybe you might have to go to the Pacific theater?
Well, we was getting ready to go over there, and then I was so glad that ended because then they canceled our things. But we were going to go from France to over there.
You didn't want to do that, did you?
No. I had enough of it.
We have a time for a few more questions if you have them.
There's man over there.
We're going to go there next after this question.
I think everyone in this room is like-minded in our respect and admiration for you and your service. My dad also served in World War II. He was in the Pacific. And I feel very fortunate that as a little girl, we had long discussions around the dinner table about why America is exceptional and why she was worth fighting for. So knowing your sacrifices, sir, how does it make you feel when people disrespect our flag or fail to stand for our national anthem?
Okay, this is a very important question. How do you feel if somebody disrespects our flag, doesn't salute our flag, or doesn't appreciate our freedom?
That's terrible. I think they need to do something about it, not let them get by with it.
I mean, you fought for our freedom.
That's right.
And you saw these countries that didn't have their freedom. And those people who live there, they really appreciate. I've been over there, and the French, the Belgium, the Dutch, they all very much appreciate the sacrifices that you made in going over there and liberating their towns. It's an amazing, but thank you so much for that. One more question? We got one way in the back. We're going to have Richard run.
I confess I've been reading the book.
Okay, got it.
Could he talk about his brothers, his family?
Who?
His brothers.
His brothers?
He was not the only person from his family that served.
Yes. Did you have any other members of your family serve in World War II?
Yes, my son was at the Vietnam, and he's got 3 Purple Hearts.
In World War
and
II?
then World War II, right.
Your brother?
My brother.
What was his name?
Then I got 2 nephews. World War II, okay.
What was your brother's name?
My brother's name, Carmen.
Carmen, and where did he serve?
He didn't go overseas. He was in the service, but stayed in the States. They didn't send him over.
Okay. Do we have one last question? That's it? Wow. Okay, from the front row, we want to hear about Bobby. What happened after that date in that steak night? Did you bring her flowers? Did she follow you back home? What happened?
Well, she had to go back home on with the women on their ship, and their ship cracked up at the Azores Islands. And what was the?
You married her.
Huh?
You married her.
Oh yeah, I married. I was jumping the gun, wasn't I? Yeah. I married her over there in France, and
You couldn't wait until you got home?
no, and when I got home and my parents, they looked at her, they said, "Well, she's not French." I said, "I never did say she was."
Oh, Nicholas, you got to come up here and say hi. Yeah.
How do you follow that?
I don't know, but you got to shake this man's hand.
Yeah, that's right. I would like for you to help me with this, Myra.
Okay.
This gentleman is an American hero. Yes. And it is my honor to present him with the Hubble Medal of Initiative. He's going to have all kinds of medals around his neck from Marshfield, but he's earned every one of them. And so I congratulate you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. Well, you know what? Let's do that.
He has all his hair.
Got more hair than I do.
You see, I still have more hair. That's that olive oil.
Olive oil is the secret, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Myra, thank you for doing the interview.
Appreciate it.
Wonderful job. Give him another round of applause.
Does anyone want to take a picture?
Yeah, if you'd like to take pictures while we're letting the Mamma Mia cast come forward, we'll go out into the lobby to do pictures. And I believe you also have books available for anybody who would like to